After a few months of teasing, Drake finally let Party Next Door out the dungeon to drop some sexy songs for you. And this project is kind of exactly what you would expect to hear from the two. It's much more on the melodic side, and the mix is all over the place, mostly on Party Next Door's vocals, and it almost overstays its welcome at just under 90 minutes. And Drake slightly addresses the beef, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But with this project, I'm not the target audience. I've never really been a fan of the more melodic Drake. Between his delivery sounding like he's just put auto-tune on his morning voice and some of his just corny lines, it's never been that interesting to me personally. But if you are a fan of Drake, you'll probably enjoy this project. And honestly, this project is probably going to do well as far as numbers go, because that's what people care about. Plus, him teaming up with Party Next Door should kind of push that further, even if it does kind of sound sometimes like Party's vocals were recorded in an aquarium. With that said, though, there are some times where this project does go in a slightly different direction than expected. We get tracks like Nokia, which is a lot more poppy, which then transitions into a more acoustically focused Die Trying, which almost sounds like Post Malone could be on it. And before we get to these two tracks, we get whatever the hell Meet Your Padre is. I don't feel like these are necessarily tracks that are meant for everybody. These are probably just some outliers, even though everyone does seem to like Nokia, at least from what I'm seeing online. But it kind of feels like Drake's trying new things just to see where he can go next. Kind of testing the waters, if you will. Truthfully, though, with this project being so long and with the variety of sounds we get, there probably is a really solid project in here if you cut it down to like 12 to 15 tracks. But we know that that's not going to happen. Now, to get into some of the other things that people are talking about in regards to this album. First, the album's title seems to be influenced by Freddie Gibbs' Soul Sold Separately, which I kind of alluded to earlier. And this is something that Freddie seems to have acknowledged with a tweet saying, "Damn, they even stole the rabbits too. I'm flattered." Because, on the back cover, there are the three rabbits looking at the track list with, I believe, hearts in their eyes or dollar signs. I don't quite remember. So, interesting that that's there. And we kind of get additional confirmation because, Freddie Gibbs just be talking shit online sometimes. He just be joking. But we do get kind of receipts from Bootleg Kev, who was with both Drake and Freddie Gibbs at the time of, right before Soul Separately came out. Basically, he's saying, yeah, we were both, all three of us were at the same place. Drake's a big fan of Freddie Gibbs. There's conversations about, I forgot the project now that they were talking about, but there was some criticism of Drake's project. They were talking about the Suns, a whole bunch of stuff there. So, this influence may be a little bit of a stretch, but given the additional evidence that we have here, it could be possible. The other thing that seems to have come up were accusations that OVO or Party specifically kind of stole ideas from the artist John Rivers, mostly in regards to the album cover with the two towers from Mississauga, which is also kind of interesting because they're from Toronto and they're different cities, still Ontario. But anyways, but yeah, they used similar covers. And then they also talked about, Party and OVO kept trying to pressure him into writing for them. And they were admiring him so hard. And then they just ended up copying him because he's like, nah, I'm not with it. I don't want to write for you. I don't know how true any of that is because we really only see one side of this conversation and no one else has really kind of come up and said, hey, I can confirm this. But it's also not hard to believe because this is kind of just something that happens in labels, right? Artists get brought on or their influence is brought on to another artist, or they just, if a label wants a different sound, they kind of try to bring people in. It doesn't seem too out of the ordinary, but again, no confirmation that's as of now. Now, as far as the beef goes, Drake does acknowledge it and kind of gives us his current thoughts on it with the track Give Me a Hug, which is a crazy, crazy title. But as crazy of a title it is probably the best track on Some Sexy Songs for You. He starts off things with just hella braggadociousness and saying,
Drizzy, you amazing, you the inspiration, you set the bar for the next generation.
And continues to echo these sentiments throughout the track. Really, it's just here to remind us that he is one of the biggest and likely influential artists for a lot of people in the music industry that are coming up right now. Additionally, he does touch on the beef directly with,
funny how it's only bitch niggas that are waiting on a boy's obituary, cause if I die, it's these niggas that become the sole beneficiary, and what the fuck are they gonna do with it?
Basically saying that these people that are preying on his downfall wouldn't necessarily know what to do with their newfound attention. And if he were to go down, like, what are they going to do? They're just going to look silly at the end of the day, where he seems to have everything under control. And then he kind of puts a bow on things and finalizes his thoughts on the beef in the second verse, where he says,
beef, I'm trying to get the party lit.
Which is probably more than enough. That says a lot. It's more than he said about any previous beefs that he's had. And yeah, it really just sounds like that's not his focus anymore. He's like, okay, that thing happened, let's move on. So I think we kind of got to get to that point as well. Just don't worry about it. This beef happened. Now let's go on to the next moment. Overall though, I don't feel like this album was for me, and that's okay. That's totally fine. I did enjoy a couple of tracks here and there, but nothing too crazy. But if you are a Drake fan and you're tired of hearing about Kendrick and their beef, I feel like this is probably the last time you'll hear of it, at least directly. And Drake has been known to kind of talk about things in subliminals and all that, but I don't think it's going to be at the forefront of everything, except for everyone who likes to dig way into the lyrics and just make things out of nothing. But anyways, those are some of my thoughts. I only listened to the album a couple of times because it is an hour and a half long and I have better things to do with my Friday. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the project. If you are enjoying it, let me know what tracks you're listening to. If you're not enjoying it, you know what to do. But while you're down there, like and subscribe to see more rambling and content like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.